Good morning, everyone, and welcome again to our backyard. Today I wanted to talk just a little bit about Coleus. I have come to find out that Coleus works really well here in the southern garden. I've mentioned I'm in the Houston area, and our zone is Zone 9A. And this is one of the plants that I got really early on when I started butterfly gardening, just because I loved the color. And it is a Coleus from Proven Winners called Sedona Sunset. And I loved the color, and I also loved the structure of it because it got fairly tall and very bushy. Right now it's thinning out and it's not as bushy. And the reason is because I also let it flower. And Coleus, as you probably know, has pretty insignificant, tiny little flowers. But the pollinators love it. And so most gardeners, or I would say a lot of gardeners, I have heard really like to pinch these off before they start, because then their Coleus stays nice and full and branches and doesn't get more spindly. But because I'm a butterfly gardener and I like attracting butterflies and the pollinators and hummingbirds, I do let my Coleus flower, and then they do get a little bit more spindly. But you wouldn't think that a hummingbird would want to come to this tiny of a flower, but they do. The pollinators, bees, like I said, they all love it. And so I do have a shade bed that I'm going to go over to that I do have Coleus. And I have different types of Coleus, and so I do like different types. This was one of my first, though, the Sedona Sunset, and I just love the foliage color and the leaf size. But let me go over to my shade bed. I have talked about my shade bed before. And in the shade, I should have mentioned that the Coleus I just showed you is in morning sun, and it probably around 1 o'clock in the afternoon then goes to the shade for the rest of the day. And it gets a very, that really nice, deep auburn color. This is also Sedona Sunset, but it's predominantly in the shade, and these in particular have green edging. Some of them do. And so in the shade they are a little bit of a different color, but I do really like how Coleus performs. And as you can see, I do let my Coleus bloom, and the blooms over here just really attract the pollinators. So I have different types of Coleus in this bed. Unfortunately, in August, we did get a pretty significant isolated storm, and it brought dime-sized hail. And so it did take out some of my Coleus, you can see here, and it did cause quite a bit of damage. Interestingly, in the leaf, I'll show you, this is what it did too. Besides breaking them off, on one of my caladiums, you can just see it just rip through the leaves. And so in my Coleus, predominantly what it did is it just completely broke the stems off. But they are coming back. You can see they are growing back fairly nicely. But I do love, in my shade bed here, I do love the different colors that you can bring in with Coleus. And they do grow well, like I said, down here, and just add a lot of color. This happens to be a Coleus called Wasabi. I love this lime green chartreuse color. And I've got it paired with another Coleus that has that same color in the center and then branches out into this beautiful burgundy color. And so like I said, letting these go and flower for a pollinator garden is much better for the pollinators, although it doesn't necessarily mean that it's much better for me looking at them once they flower. But, well, small price to pay, right? To get my pollinators in the garden. So anyway, thank you for joining me. Taking a look at my Coleus. And I hope you all have a great day.